All right. I think I am live. Let's see who's all in the chat here so far. Hello, everybody. I see Kobodoc and Fright Night. Welcome. Glad you could all tune in for a pretty short notice stream here. We've got a very excellent guest with us today. I'll give you all just a moment here to filter in. Make sure you can all hear me, see me, and all that, because I know my connection can sometimes be a little bit weird. Let's see. All right, cool. Everything looks good on my end. All right, folks, I'm going to bring in our guest here. Give it all up for FresherLuke.
Hello.
Luke, how you doing today?
I'm feeling especially alive today as I finally made it onto the legendary Reagan Lodge's live stream.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. I mean, it's been a while since I've wanted to have you on. You had me on your stream, I think, like
a year ago.
Coming up on, a year ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And you did some really cool Wyatt fan art, which I'll dig up it to show at some point during the stream today.
Oh
no, it was really cool though. It was honestly awesome.
I know, but I'm one of those artists where I look at my old stuff, I'm like, and like the cringe is so intense that I like curl up into the fetal position.
Oh no. Oh, I thought it was pretty sweet inking.
Thank
honestly.
You. Thank
you.
Hey,
what's up? Ryman Bad Guy.
Oh, he sounds like a decent person.
Yeah, very much so. We've got Fright Night, who's a longtime regular here. Same for Kobodoc.
Oh, nice.
Lots of good regulars. So we're going to be talking a little bit about your animated short project that you've got on Indiegogo.
Yes.
Let me see. I'll post the link in the chat here. I'm going to be posting it several times since there's probably going to be latecomers and all of that. But what can you tell us about Random Saga in short?
Well, what would you like to know? Is there anything?
Okay, where did it come from? Yeah, just where'd the whole project come from? How did you get started on this?
Well, I mean, obviously, not all of these images are from the short, like right. This. Yeah, but this was an old story idea I had. Like that. That one. That's a good one. This was from an old story idea I had, or concept I had back when I was working in the mainstream animation industry. It was something I'd sort of like started and was developing over time as some concept art. And I'd pitched it to multiple studios and they all liked it, but for various reasons I won't get into on the stream, fate would always intervene and thwart my attempts to try and get it greenlit and put into production. But I was really passionate about this story about 4 misfit characters banding together and pursuing their dreams, trying to survive in a hostile fantasy world filled with monsters. I guess it's one of those things that I just don't want to let go and I just want to see complete. I'm one of those people where if I start something, I kind of don't want to abandon it. I just want to continue it and see it to the end as much as I can. I don't know, maybe that's stubbornness, maybe that's just stupidity, I'm not sure. But
I can definitely relate.
Yeah. So that was sort of the genesis of it. I sort of had all these different ideas for characters, sort of in separate little compartments in my mind. And, as things often happen with me, I tend to just go, well, it'd be really funny if I kind of put them all together and see what they would do. Even though I was the one who's drawing it, because they all had very interesting and unique characteristics to them and different traits that I thought would play off well against each other and sort of make things more interesting for viewers. And that's about the extent of that long rant on the subject.
Nice. Yeah, because I remember hearing about the I guess like the proto version of this quite a long
Yes.
time ago. And so is this pretty much the same, like the same story, or is there a little bit of it that's been retooled since the time you were pitching it around in the film animation industry?
Well, yeah, obviously for legal reasons, it's a completely unique and not at all related thing to that one that you're talking
Of
about.
course.
But yeah, I have sort of added things and sort of helped flesh out the characters a little more and tried to make it a little more interesting. Initially, I was going to make it a little more adult rather than focused on all ages, just because originally I was just going to like my stubbornness was kicking in again. I was like, I'll just do it myself, and I don't have to worry about censors or standards and practices like jumping down my throat, and I can have them say and do whatever they want. They can drink, they can smoke, and they can swear. Hooray! But then I thought, as time progressed and the cultural landscape continued to spiral out of control, I thought, maybe I could put something good into the world where there seems to be a lack of it instead. And so that's sort of been this new direction I've been wanting to go for, because in my mind, I feel like kids aren't really getting stuff made for them these days. And families. It's mostly, or at least the stuff I see on the internet, is mostly very risque content or very adult content. And I know kids look at it, but it's like, kids shouldn't be looking at that stuff, man.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think that it's a bit of a tightrope to walk
Yeah.
because, like, growing up, I was a '90s kid, and I remember like PG rated Disney had a bit of an edge to it. Like you had like the animated series like Gargoyles or Tailspin,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, where it's like the characters would have firearms and stuff, and there were usually like pretty high stakes involved, but at the same time there was a good reason for it. It was to
Yeah.
illustrate that, hey, this is a very dangerous situation.
Yeah.
These bad guys are really bad, without being too graphic about it. Now it
Yeah.
seems to be like there's like this weird sort of, I feel like, this hatred of childhood innocence and stuff, to where it's like, well, we have to make the kids as jaded and overwhelmed with information and options as we are. It's like this
Yeah.
resentment.
Yeah. No, that's that's pretty accurate. Well, thank you. But no, that is true, and I have seen that firsthand with my own eyes, having worked in the industry. It's a lot of these people seem to be using kids' entertainment as some kind of therapy session for them to work out their
Mm.
issues. And while I understand that like media can be cathartic in a good way, it's, I don't know, there was just something wrong about it. Like they were kind of like forgetting a lot of the key tenets of what makes good animated content, like knowing who your audience is and tailoring that content for that rather than being self-indulgent. And that obviously extends to like making or crafting very well thought out stories that have universal messages that everyone can relate to, regardless of your walk of life or what part of the world you might be in. And that's kind of what made a lot of that stuff. Like, I was also grew up in the '90s as well. That's what made that stuff so great. It's like, you would watch it, and then the next day at school, you would go and talk about it with your friends, and it was easy to talk about because you could all like, you could all understand it from the same place, so to say, even though you could be totally different personality wise. So yeah.
Yeah. I think what you said about people using pop mainstream or popular storytelling as like their own therapy platform, that touches on something I've thought about a lot. Like I do think that to some degree, whenever we write stories, we do need to write from a little bit from our own experience or from what we've lived and stuff.
Sure.
But because that gives it a certain touch of vitality, I think. But at the same time, it can become really self-indulgent. Like, just it can just become like your own personal stream of consciousness or vent session, or you're mad at the world or those types of people over
Yes.
there, and you make your whole, before you know it, you're making the theme of your story about
Those evil people
problems.
doing
Yeah,
evil things. And we need to
right.
stop them right now.
Yeah, and it's like it's a very like deconstructivist
Yeah.
kind of approach I've noticed. Um, and there was something that there's one guy in the film industry. He's like a story consultant, and I think
Oh,
he's written a few comics. His name is Brian McDonald. I don't know if you've ever heard of him,
I
but
have not heard of this man. Is he any relation to Ronald McDonald?
mm, not very much resemblance, I don't think.
Oh,
Um, um,
I know.
but
I thought it was appropriate considering Ronald McDonald is a clown. I'm assuming that's what
oh,
you're going
it's
to
just
call him.
it's. I mean, you'll know why I'm laughing later,
Okay.
but he was somebody that I listened to like on some podcast episodes and read his book Invisible Ink, back when I was like really trying to puzzle out some things with Wyatt. And one thing that he said that really did stick with me and that was relevant to what you were talking about was how you have to treat storytelling as if you're giving a gift, or
Yes.
you are giving something to people. Not in the sense that like, you have to be like just rigidly like, oh, I'm Mr. Socially Responsible or something like that. But you just have to understand that, you have to try to treat the audience with compassion and respect without talking down. So you don't talk down to them, don't lie to them,
Yes.
and don't basically make them the equivalent of uh, somebody whose DMs you're flooding with personal venting stuff. Try to give them something that you actually believe in your heart to be useful and helpful information that will, I don't know, make their existence a little bit better, and provide them with some joy and escapism in this process.
Exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
pretty stunning how I feel like animation production quality has gotten unbelievably good in the past couple decades, and yet the a lot of the story quality is just there's a lot of skilled writers, but they how do I put it? They've got skill but not soul. There's a lot
They
of
don't.
people
They
with the
they don't.
reflection in the mirror
Yeah.
writing
Like
interesting stories.
they lack insight. They think they're deep and introspective, but it's actually the opposite. They're quite shallow and vapid, mostly because I mean, not to rag on Americans, because I know you're American, right, Reagan?
Yes. I
But
mean,
the
I'm Californian, which might as well be a different species according to some, but yes.
well, I mean, one thing I did find when I came to America, and I think most people around the world kind of have come to this conclusion: America has a very insular look in regards to the world and sort of just everything. And I mean, there's some pros and cons to that, but I don't know. It seems. I mean, I've been lucky in that I've met people like yourself who aren't quite like that. Like you do kind of have a bit more of a, I'm going to say open mind for lack of a better term, but it's not something where you are easily possessed by whatever idea comes strolling your way. You know what I mean? Like you have a strong sense of self enough, but you have an open enough mind where you can consider other people's perspectives. And
Yeah, I
I
try to.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's all we can really ever do. But a lot of these people kind of are the opposite of that, and it's in my estimation, I would say it's the purest form of hubris, because I mean, we're already seeing it right now. Like they're putting out shows with content that people aren't liking, and they, instead of going, oh well, going back to the drawing board, saying, well, maybe we've got to rethink this and figure out what it is we did wrong. They're like, instead they're pointing the finger, saying, I'm not wrong. You're the ones who are wrong. I'm the correct one. But the problem is when you point fingers, there's three more fingers pointing back at you. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there is a point where you do have to know when sometimes criticism from the peanut gallery, it is going to come from people who, even if you were doing an honestly like good story, they just will not get it. That's always going to be
Sure.
there. But
Yeah.
when there is like a really significant portion of a fan base that is just saying like man, like either I feel insulted by these story decisions or I feel like it's a disrespect to the source material.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's thinking about the particular Oliphant that is in the room, but it's like, to use that as an example where it's like, people have like criticism, like valid like story quality criticisms
Yeah.
of something, and the response to the criticism is, well, you're just saying that because you're a bigot or something. And
Yeah.
it's
Something
like,
that doesn't actually like it just dismisses. You know what I mean? It doesn't even give it a second thought. Like, wait, maybe they're onto something. I
yeah,
don't know what Colin's talking about. I have no idea.
yeah, exactly. Oh, wow.
Poa?
Yeah. No
It
idea.
must be something new. I don't know.
Must be.
So anyway, yeah, that was sort of the coming back to the subject. That's sort of one of the key objectives that I have in doing Random Saga. Like, I want to bring it back to basics, make it more about the key tenets of good storytelling, which is, character growth and development, good plots, and just good messages and other good things that are escaping my mind right now. So,
Well, so who or what were some of your inspirations for Random Saga?
oh my god,
I mean, I figure that's probably going to be a long list, but let's just start going down the list.
that is the whole show, Reagan. Well, shall I start from the beginning?
Yeah, why not?
Well, the initial inspiration, the whole start of this was I had two older brothers who were massive nerds, and they read a lot of Dragonlance books and played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. And I was too young, and so they wouldn't let me play Dungeons and Dragons. But I would obviously hang around them because obviously they were my older brothers, and that's what younger brothers do. And they'd be talking about their campaigns, but I was too young to understand exactly what they were talking about. So I thought they were talking about real life. And so they're saying, yeah, and then we shut the spell at the dragon and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, whoa, what? And so my little mind would, obviously my young imagination was quite wild. And so I was just like, I thought reality was more fantastic than it actually was. And that's what set me on this horrible path of becoming an artist that you now see me as. This is my true visage. This is what being an artist means. Just wearing a business suit and having headphones on.
Nice.
And so from there, I kind of, I guess it put the bug in my ear, or the little part of your brain that starts to itch that you can't quite scratch. And I was like I got really into first of all, the Arthurian legends of King Arthur and Merlin and the Sword and the Stone and the Lady of the Lake. And then from there, I went on to like Robin Hood and other classic legends from there. And then, another big fantasy influence. I don't know. What are you talking about? I'm simply an honest businessman trying to do business.
Casey here. No, I'm so sorry that Casey said
I mean, it's
the S word.
No, I mean it's fine.
Luke. Like Casey, like we don't use the word skeleton here. It's bone person. Okay.
No, I don't get this. I mean, no, I do. I mean, people make this mistake a lot. I don't know why. I'm simply a businessman doing business, and that's all I'm doing. I'm doing business with other humans. So, I mean, people make this mistake a lot. I can't figure out why. But anyway, I hold no ill will towards Casey. Thank you. And I don't do that silly pronouns. Just businessman is fine.
It's okay, Casey. We forgive you. We just need you to promise. You need you to publicly apologize and promise.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't hold any grudges being a businessman and all. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so one of the other fantasy influences that I just loved was Sergio Aragonés's
Oh
Gru the
yeah.
Wanderer, and I have really fond memories of that. What? I was almost gonna call myself FresherLuke, but I feel like I would have insulted many Japanese people. But but I had really good memories reading Gru because I would me and my mother would sit in bed and we'd read Gru together, and so that kind of like cemented that as well. And I actually got to meet Sergio in real life many years later, and he was such a nice and sweet man, and it was such an honor to shake his hand. He truly is an amazing artist, and one of the fastest artists out there, and he was one of the hugest,
Yeah.
biggest inspirations for me for wanting to be like a really fast artist as well. And so I'd always be trying to working on trying to increase my speed, but also maintain my accuracy as well. But I don't think I could ever hold a candle to his Mach speed of draftsmanship.
Yeah, his stuff is incredible. I remember seeing it in like Mad Magazine and stuff as a kid, and then I never talked with him at length, but I did, meet him at his Comic Con or San Diego Comics Fest
Yeah.
table a few times, and he's just like a total like ray of sunshine kind of
Oh
guy.
yeah.
He's just like extremely merry. But him and like Stan Sakai both are
Oh
very
yeah.
just I don't know, just super like they're just really warm people, and it's like
And very very professional as well.
yeah, that too. It's like, I mean, it's like with the kind of success that they have, like they could have let it get to their heads and I don't know, give them an ego or whatever or something like we've seen some people in the industry uh get, but it's like they've just kind of remained like everybody's uncle when you first when you meet
Yeah.
them.
And the other interesting thing about that was one of the shows that I really enjoyed watching was the Dungeons and Dragons animated show, if you remember that one.
I vaguely do. I didn't watch it much as a kid, but I remember it came on like briefly as like a rerun or something,
Well,
and I
I
saw a few
saw
episodes.
all the episodes when I was a kid. I mean, I was very fortunate to have grown up in the place that I did, because in Australia we would get there's no actual culture in Australia, like locally made culture of any kind. It's mostly just like sports and barbecues. But because of that, a lot of the Australian TV networks would buy, uh, I guess, television packages from other networks overseas, and so I got a lot of stuff from like Japan, Europe, Britain, and America, and it was just this. I guess I grew up in this really weird and interesting eclectic diet of animated content, because like when I was really young, I was like all about animated content. And one of those shows was Dungeons and Dragons, which was, funnily enough, written by the same person who wrote Gru the Wanderer, Mr. Mark Evener.
I did not see that. I did not know.
Yes, see? Fresher knowledge here. I'm dropping some fresher knowledge. So yeah, so that's sort of the start of, I guess, the seeds that were planted in my mind to then be born into the fruit that was my obsession with storytelling and animation and I guess fantasy as well.
Nice. I've always been a little more of a sword and sorcery type guy myself. The Conan, Robert E. Howard stuff, but in in the I feel like there's definitely I definitely feel like there's been an overload in D&D style fantasy stuff lately, but it's
Oh yeah.
mostly comes down to like the writing quality. A lot of it is very very twee and ironic and I don't know, it just very inconsequential,
Yeah, no, I
Uh
get you.
it,
Yeah.
it's like the equivalent of like I don't know, like sitcom sort of stuff but with swords and magic. So if somebody were totally new to your work, they didn't know about where, your background and any of that, or like or if they didn't know about your previous work, like Forgotten Gods, which
I
is
I
really awesome.
I feel like I should read because everyone calls it everything except for what it is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Forsaken Gods. I don't know, you Commonwealth people and your fancy archaic words like Forsaken and Forsooth and
Forsooth, forsooth
for
and gods.
real and so on.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really missing out on a key audience demographic who want a book called either
You,
Forgotten
I mean, you,
Gods or Forbidden Gods, because
you
everyone
need to
seems to be
do.
calling it that.
I mean, you need to do a proper like Amerisphere translation. Just call it "Forgotted Gods."
Forgotten,
Forgat,
for, for,
forgoat.
forgoated.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. If people were looking at your stuff now, and if they said like the dreaded C word, it looks like CalArt style, which I have a big problem with that terminology personally, but I
I
know
mean,
what they mean by
well, I
it.
mean, I know you do because didn't you study at CalArts, Reagan?
I very briefly went there for like a kind of like a summer
Yeah,
program thing. It was all taught by CalArts instructors, and it was like CalArts curriculum.
yeah,
But at the time that I was there, CalArts style meant really cool stuff like Road to El Dorado, Prince of Egypt, Glen Keane style,
yeah, yeah,
Atlantis, Treasure Planet, like that really high concept, kind of realistic, but still very stylized animated
yeah.
stuff. And then now it means something totally else.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I mean, the meme has obviously taken on a whole different meaning now in current age.
mhm.
But I
um,
mean, I know the old style that you mean because I know a lot of young female Korean girls who go to CalArts who only want to draw in that style, and they do it quite well. Um, but for the rest of the near do well rich louses who go to that um, formerly great institution, it now means basically just not understanding how you know how to construct 3D looking figures in on 2D space, and it's mostly just like bean mouths and bean heads, and just
mhm.
the laziest form of art and animation you could possibly think of. Like there's no real draftsmanship. Like hands are just kind of like three nubs, and the arms are just like these wobbly noodles.
Oh gosh, I hate it.
It's kind of a bit of a I don't know. I feel like Disney's probably spinning in his grave so much right now. Walt Disney.
I
His
mean,
head is
that's
spinning.
how.
His head is spinning in his cryogenic chamber right now, and it's powering the whole entire facility.
I mean, that was the joke that Cornelius Cole, one of the great animation instructors there, used to say was that the uh, the whole campus was powered by Disney spinning in his grave underneath it, somewhere in the sub level of the campus.
Yeah.
Um, so if somebody were totally new to what you're doing, and
Yes.
like your character styles, like it is simplified, but it's not like that super scrunched down like sitcom style either. If somebody who's been a little bit burnt out by the recent trend in cartoons that they're just overloaded with irony and kind of insincerity and just really vapid plot lines and stories, like what would you tell them to kind of, I don't know, pitch to them to set Random Saga apart from that kind of milieu?
I would say it's the opposite of everything you talked about. Um, it does have more wholesome messages. Obviously, the characters they have their flaws, but they also grow as people. As the stories progress, with each new story, they learn something more about themselves and about each other. And yeah, they all have their own kind of character arcs, and it's man, that's a really hard question. it's because obviously, like, in me making this animated short, it's just, I'm a one-man band. It's just me making it, so I can't really put much like really flashy stuff in there, like
Yeah.
action or anything like that. It's mostly just more smaller stories and more the characters interacting and relating to each other. But yeah, I am trying to sort of steer away from sort of that cynical kind of sarcastic storytelling style that seems to be permeating the mainstream industry now, because most artists and writers are just so mentally lazy that they just don't want to bother trying to understand other people. So in a sense, I'm kind of like, help me out here, Reagan. I'm totally.
I mean,
I'm
I think what
struggling.
you're describing is like, I mean, in so much cartoon dialogue, I just see characters talking with what they imagine to be cool, aloof snark,
Yes. All
basically
right.
as sort of
Very,
a
very
social
accurate. Yeah.
status move or something like that.
Yeah. It's all centered around the facade, like, right, like status games, which um, I know I keep coming back to it. I'm trying not to, but being in the industry, I've kind of witnessed that myself as well. Like everything's an attempt to try and gain some kind of social one-upmanship over somebody else and prove that they're morally superior. But that's not what I'm trying to do here at all. I'm trying to come at this more at a place of honesty and objectiveness. Because life is messy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these characters are definitely they're definitely the embodiment of that, right? Like you've got Marigold, who though he looks like really big and strong, he's somewhat a wimp, and um, he doesn't really understand that he has to grow up and stop behaving like a boy. He has to become a man at some point.
Mm.
You've got Aphid, who's like this little imp white girl, and she's grown up on the streets her whole life, and so in order to survive, she's had to like lie, cheat, and steal in order to get by, and but she only does that because she doesn't know any better, right? She's just a little kid, and so it's up to the older characters to sort of teach her, that's kind of not a very constructive way of going about life, and like there's a better way to do it. And then you got Wizard Lizard, who's like leader of the group, and sure, he's got a lot of like intelligence in regards to like logic and systemic or systemized intelligence, but he lacks a lot of emotional intelligence. So, by his interacting with the other characters, he learns to be a bit more empathetic and be a bit less judgmental, and by extension, that kind of makes him a better leader. You know what I mean? And in
Mm-hmm.
him being a better leader, they kind of all improve overall. So, yeah, it's like I kind of feel like young people. Here I am, sound like an old guy. I kind of feel like young people today. They just don't understand. But they kind of seem to. I don't know. I understand why they kind of think that adults are idiots and stuff like that, because they don't really have any kind of perspective, because they're just starting out. And that's kind of like the other part of the reason why I'm kind of doing this. It's kind of because obviously, this kind of media has a lot of, I feel like it has a lot of social power. Like it can give people insights into things or give them different perspectives they hadn't considered, but it's in sort of a quote unquote safe place for them to explore that. Because a lot of young people seem to think that everything is very cut and dry and black and white, but there is, in some instances that is true, but in a lot of other instances, especially with humans, because we being growing up and getting older, it's a journey. You make mistakes, you learn things, and you try and improve and get better as you go along. And sometimes you fall off the wagon, but then when you fall off the wagon, you have to get back on the wagon again, and you might fall off it again somewhere down the road, but you just got to keep getting back on. And I kind of feel like most younger kid people don't really they don't understand that. They no one's really told them that, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of popular messaging right now centers entirely around this kind of placating. Uh, you're you're fine as you are. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you're good as you are. Everybody else is wrong. That kind of stuff. When it's
Yes.
like, I mean, yeah, there is a time to know when you are certainly in the right and you are surrounded by morons. Absolutely, but there has to be, there has to be like some kind of moral center to even make that determination from, and we definitely don't have that. And so when I, see like this kind of like this sort of indiscriminate, you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing, you're wonderful, you're all this kind of like very blind inflationary affirmationism.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly damaging. I know it's like a boomer cliche to say like, oh, kids these days they just get participation trophies, and it's like, I mean, to be fair, like the boomers were the ones demanding that their kids get the trophies in the first place because
Yeah.
they just couldn't, it's not entirely our fault, but uh
Yeah. I
there
mean, I feel like everyone can share some blame in
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and what you were describing about like Marigold, for example, like if I were totally unfamiliar with your work and what in your values and like what you like to create, if I were a complete outsider, I would have looked at Marigold and initially thought, oh gosh, I hope this is not another like Thundercats Roar where it's like a mockery of the heroic uh swordsman type of stuff where it's like big strong swordsman, oh, but it's kind of ironic and subversive and stuff. But what you said about how it's like, well, he starts off as like kind of goofy, kiddish, wimpy, and all this, but he has to learn to grow up, to become a man, to
Yeah.
accept responsibility. Like, and that's a very bold storytelling move now. I mean, it used to be just like a standard
Yes.
storytelling move, but like I think that's extremely valuable and important.
No, I agree, and that's what I mean when I say I'm like really passionate about this because, yeah, it's as you said, like people seem to have forgotten a lot of these, I guess, key storytelling tenets. Like things like you gotta your main protagonist can't be perfect, and they can't just breeze through whatever challenge because then it's boring, right? You got to put them through the ringer. They got to face challenges, and there's a kind of satisfaction when you finally get to see that character train hard and do everything he can to overcome those challenges. But yeah, and in a sense, it is that lack of understanding of that kind of stuff is sort of a symptom of that trophy for everyone kind of mentality. And I think, I mean, but that I like thinking about that. That's kind of part of the. I don't know. It's like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I understand why they would want to do that initially because it's like, you have to be encouraging to young people, but
Yeah.
like with anything, moderation is key, and you can sort of be almost too encouraging in a sense. And
Yeah.
so, it's important to be encouraging, but it's also important to like call out things that might not be good. I speak good now, and I don't know. It's a hard line to.
I mean,
It's a hard.
it's like
It's yeah, because
it's
I
like
mean,
a it's
neither of us are parents, so we don't really know that. We haven't really had that experience yet, so we can't really speak to that as truthfully as we could. But
yeah.
in principle and on paper, I feel like that's what we needs
I
to
mean, the
happen.
closest thing I could maybe relate to is, when I was in the Marines and had to manage a squad-sized group, unit, and I learned very quickly that the type of there's two types of bad leadership. There's the one who is always affirming and just never helps you improve, never gives you any criticism because they're always afraid of they're afraid of not being liked,
Yes.
or they're afraid of hurting your feelings, which, I mean, you're not going to find that much in the Marines, honestly. It's going to lean a little bit more towards the second one, which is all they can ever do is just critique you constantly and give you, chew you out.
Yeah.
And that, if all you're being told is what you're doing wrong, you're never going to know what to. You might get a long list of things not to do, but you're never going to get a list of what to do right. And so
Yeah.
I've learned very quickly that the most effective thing was to tell someone. And I suppose that this could, I don't know yet because again, I'm not a father yet, but at the very least, if I were a little kid again, or even as an adult, I do usually prefer to be told, okay, hey, you did a really good job on this part, and that part. But this part right here, like, is where you messed up.
Yeah.
Here's how you can do this better next time. Like, if you're just kind of given a little bit of like, okay, here's what you did right, keep doing that.
Yeah.
Here's what you did wrong. It's I think that's like a way more balanced approach, and applying that into storytelling where it's not just this kind of ham-fisted, really dry, pithy kind of Aesop's fable, kind of crushing moral lesson. You have to
Yeah.
you have to you have to deliver it with a little bit of joy and encouragement.
Sure.
Um,
And I mean, that's the sherbet that you wrap the medicine in. I
mhm.
feel like.
So
So yeah.
Raymond Bad Guy says, to add to what I've said
Uh-oh.
before, that art piece with a castle in the background in the town, plus the cavern in the forefront with the flag, that had me chef kissing.
Oh, thank
Really
you. That's
likes
one
it.
of the backgrounds for the short.
Nice. Says it reminds him of the first Rayman game.
Oh, okay. Now I can see why he's the bad guy.
Oh no. I
You
always
know what? I'll take it. I'll take it.
I always associate Rayman with going to the dentist office because they had a PS1 there that I would play Rayman and Ridge
Whoa,
Racer
your
on.
dentist office had a PS1.
Oh yeah, yeah. Growing up in
Holy
California in the '90s was an amazing place.
wow. We just had a bunch of really bad women's mags.
Oh man. Hold on one second. Let me check the super chats here. Oh, no, it's a false notification.
Oh,
Okay. Now, also, I want to talk a little bit about Forsaken Gods, your
oh yes.
comic that you did as well. I really
Um,
liked it.
thank
I
you.
like that you. I like that you
I
have an
think
appreciation for tomboys. I appreciate tomboys a lot too. Um, the artwork is just freaking amazing, though.
thank you.
I don't think I can just hold it up to the screen, but some of the stuff that I'm showing in the slideshow, folks, comes from this book right here, and I'll make sure I actually get a link to put in the show notes. But what can you tell us about Forsaken Gods for anybody who's new to it?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I think you'll be getting a very special book in the mail very soon.
Oh,
Um, that's just my thank you to you, because believe it or not, guys in the chat, like me and Reagan have known each other for a little bit now, and he's been a very positive influence on my life, and giving him a free book is probably the least I could do. But speaking about Forsaken Gods, it's another fantasy story that I'd been also developing for a very long time. It's set in this fantasy world called Epic Earth, where many centuries ago there was this great war between the gods, and they fought for supremacy. And then after the war was done, they took all their artifacts and weapons that they used to fight the war, and they sealed them away in all of these various vaults and dungeons, so that any mortals and other animals that were left behind after the war couldn't gain access to them and use them to cause any trouble. And so the story takes place many years after that, where the main character, the tomboy that I know you so love so much, named Samara, she's an archaeologist. She's entering one of these dungeons looking for these artifacts because she's trying to piece together the reasons behind the war. And, bada boom, bada bing, many things happen. And she inadvertently awakens the other main character, who you can see here just briefly, a flaming, screaming skull encased in magical armor named Skull Knight. And he is, because she's the one that awoke him, he is now duty bound to follow her around and do as she commands. But she doesn't realize that at first, and so she thinks he's trying to kill her, but he's not. He's just trying to do his job. And as a result, hilarity ensues. It's sort of I guess I'll say it's my magnum opus. I don't know if I'll get it complete or if I'll die before I do, but it's sort of my thesis on my, I guess everything we talked about already, my thesis on my thoughts on and theories on storytelling and sort of how storytelling influences culture and how culture influences us as humans, and how that kind of all, creates the building blocks for how we, I guess, operate our societies and how we interact with each other. Because I know you're a religious man, Reagan, and in a sense, Christianity and the Bible is one of the oldest stories out there that we glean meaning from, and that was sort of like even the Bible has a genealogy. If you go back all the way back to the dawn of man, where we would sit around fires and try to make sense of the world around us, and we didn't really have any understanding, so the best we could do was, there's some magical dude up in the sky, and he tells the clouds to cry on us, and that's really great. So we better do something. Let's sacrifice one of our goats so we'll be happy. And obviously we've come a long way since then. But it's from that and from stuff like cave paintings that things like the written word, the alphabet, and stuff like that were born. And it was all a means for us to try to communicate and pass on stories to the next generation. To I guess it's kind of like an evolutionary byproduct of how successful we've come, and like things like the Brothers Grimm and Aesop tables were kind of like also versions of that, where it's like they were very dark and they had very dark themes, but that was because back then kids tended not to live very long. People had shorter lifespans, and so in order to teach kids lessons, in order to save their lives, they had to imprint very frightening and scary stories so that they would remember them and obviously survive a little bit longer and go on to produce more progeny and further the genetic line of whatever family was trying to make it in such a harsh world.
So, quick question from Kobodoc. He asks if there will be another Kickstarter collector's edition for people who missed Forsaken Gods.
Yes. So, good thing that you said that. I am in the works right now to do another Kickstarter for people like yourself.
Awesome.
I'm planning, I mean, don't hold me to this. I'm planning on launching that October 1st on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And it's going to be the collected edition, volume 1 edition. So it'll be a complete package. You'll get some other extras as well, like the trading cards, the pins, and the T-shirt, of course, the T-shirt that everyone likes. Yeah, so keep an eye out for it. Maybe I'll come on for that as well. We can talk about it some more and sort of like.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely make sure that everybody knows about that launch as soon as it happens.
Yeah, I'm doing things a little bit differently this time. Like I've done, I guess Random Saga is my third crowdfund, but the other two previous Forsaken Gods crowdfunds and Indiegogo were a learning process. So I'm trying to take all those lessons and trying to put them all into the Kickstarter one. And hopefully this one will be really successful. We'll see. I'm obviously, any creator like myself is trying to find new audience members.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of one of the big goals as well. But I also want to do more volumes of Forsaken Gods, because I do have, I have fleshed it out quite thoroughly. I have this really thick volume of development stuff that I call the Forsaken Gods Bible, just sitting on my desk over here. And that's going to be an amazing behind the scenes art book that I'm going to be putting out when everything's done and finished.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that, because I've seen a lot of your sketches over the years, and every time, like anytime I get to see like a little bit of like your unfinished material, it's super high energy and it reads very clearly, which is something like I greatly enjoy seeing. Like, I mean,
Thank
you've
you.
got a little bit of it in the back of the first Forsaken Gods book, and it's extremely good. So if you're going to be
Thanks.
doing like a book of, you know, a little bit more compiled uh compiled stuff that didn't make it into this cut initially, like that's definitely something people are going to want to collect. And also, like, you know, I have a lot of people in my audience who are maybe on the more novice or intermediate side of artists, and I think they'll definitely be able to learn a lot from seeing how you break down character shapes into really simple, effective forms, but at the same time, they're not so simplified that it's like we were talking about earlier, like Bean Mouth or
Yeah.
Blob Body
Yeah.
cartoony. Like these are characters with very cool, heroic, or attractive, beautiful, or just interesting high concept proportions. But at the same time, they're very, very simplified, easy to read from a distance. Like you could
Yes.
probably print it out and understand it from across the room. And so I think
Yeah,
anybody who,
that's animation principles 101. Like, make sure your character has a clear silhouette. Remember that, Reagan?
yes, oh yes, definitely. That was like one of the main things that I struggled with
I know.
when I was
I
designing the
struggled.
characters for Wyatt.
I struggled with that a lot as well, and I struggled with color a lot as well back in the day. But the thing is, and this is something I learned from Bob Ross. It's being an artist is an acquired skill. Like, the more you do it, it's like a muscle. The more you work it, the more developed it becomes. And the key
Mm.
is just persistence. But even having said that, I still have a lot more I need to learn. But you know, I'm obviously getting older now, and my neuroplasticity isn't as good as it used to be.
Oh,
So
I've got a long list of weird supplements that I take that might help with that, enough to make Joe Rogan's head spin. So I can
yeah,
probably
that's the
get
other
with you
thing.
offline for some of that.
No, I appreciate that, but I'm one of these people, like,
It's
just
all over the counter. Nothing. I'm nothing
I know,
sketchy. In.
but one thing that I will say, just to make it a little personal, a little dark. I mean, I have come off, or just come out of, something really bad, and one big part of that was substance abuse. Um, and that's just kind of the nature of where I was for the last 10 years
Oh
or
wow.
so. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, you know, coming to terms with that is a long journey. And when you do finally come to terms with the fact that you did have a problem, that's when you can really start to grow from there. And it was really interesting because before I came to America, I was very much against sort of using substances of any kind. But I don't know, it's a strange slippery slope. And going back to what I said again, it's like part of going on this journey. Like, you make mistakes and you go down bad paths, but it's like when you know, hopefully eventually one day when you hit rock bottom and you look around, you realize, you know, you've gone astray. That's when you can start to backtrack and start to go on a better path. And so I kind of have this policy of not really relying on any kind of supplements or any kind of substances.
Nice.
Like, I don't drink. Like, drinking is a big one.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it gets expensive as hell.
oh, it
Even if
is.
you're doing it healthily in moderation,
No,
it's still
well,
an
that's the thing.
expensive
There is
hobby.
no healthily way to drink, dude. It's a very destructive drug, I find. I mean, like, if people just want to have like one drink once a month or something, sure, fair enough. But I've just, you know, I've gone cold turkey. Um,
Good.
you know, and when I had a what was it? I had a kidney stone a few years back, and
Oh,
it hurt like hell. And so, like, I basically crawled to the emergency room, and they were like, you know, do you want some morphine? I was like, hell no.
yeah. Jeez.
Even though that would have given me relief. And so after, you know, all that was figured out, you know, it was an overnight stay, and it all worked itself out, thankfully enough. They were going to do some crazy things to me. I said, heck no, man. But after they worked that out, they gave me these prescriptions, and I said, "Can you explain these drugs to me?" And they said, "Well, this drug can help you with this, but this drug is also a narcotic, so you can be addicted to it." I was like, "Well, you know what? I think I'm fine." And I'm going to renege on everything I just said right now. I will say weed is an amazing beneficiary if you use it responsibly and in moderation. It's really good for pain management. And it was the only time I ever used weed, and it helped me deal with, I guess, the lingering pain after, the
I can
stone had
certainly
gotten.
I can certainly agree with that. Like I don't use cannabis personally, but
No.
there was a time after a surgery I had where I was given opioids, um, for pain relief, and the pain was bad enough that I did have to take them to some degree, but I
Yeah.
forced myself to basically like I would do. Okay, I'm going to take the prescribed, what was it, OxyContin.
Oh
Uh,
my God, you took that?
well, I took it for I would take it like one day, and then I would
Yeah.
do the next day off, and I would use cannabis to manage the pain on that day, which
Yeah.
it helped a lot. Not as much as the prescribed stuff, but I like, I've known people who multiple people who died from opioid overdoses,
Yeah.
and it was just like I was just like that is a terrifying hole that I do not want to stare down. And so
Exactly.
I just took like just the bare minimum I needed to just take the edge off of the worst of the pain. And then as soon as like I could manage the rest with weed, that's what I did. That being said, I don't know. Weed felt a little bit too good for me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
I
the thing with,
realized, yeah,
with yes.
I just I was
Sorry,
not
I
productive
gotta
on it.
interrupt. I gotta interrupt. Right
I think my
now.
connection is also lagging a little bit. I'm
Oh,
using the
okay.
Elon Musk space internet, and
All right. All
the
right.
Xenos are attacking my satellite again, and I'm waiting on the Imperium's forces to rally to my signal's
Oh my God.
defense.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
But
the Greys never cut me a break.
I will
Um,
say, no, I understand everyone's experience with weed is different. I totally understand that. It's a case by case basis.
yeah,
I've been lucky enough where I was able to take it, and in a sense, I didn't get addicted to it. I kind of feel like that's one of the huge benefits of it. That like there's very few detrimental side effects to it or after effects, like say alcohol,
yeah.
which the hangover is like killer, and
Oh,
you just
oh,
want to curl up
yeah,
and die. But with weed,
yeah,
it's nothing like that. I mean, I have used it also once or twice to help me with my insomnia. I do have a chronic insomnia,
yeah.
and
I mean, the worst thing that can happen in some cases is you might just eat a whole pizza by yourself.
yeah, and that's fair enough. But I mean, that's even good for me because I'm one of these body types where if I don't exercise and I don't eat regularly, I just waste away.
Ugh,
So that kind of helps because being able to put on weight and keep the weight is obviously a challenge for me as well.
mm,
So for the most part, the benefits have outweighed any kind of the negatives. The only negatives that I've had really is that sometimes my short-term memory is a little bit fuzzy. It's
yeah.
hard for me to sort of remember some things in the short term, but usually that clears up if I don't use it
That's
for
the
like
main reason
a
why
day
I
or so.
don't. That's the main
Yeah,
reason why I don't do any cannabis, just because I'm so scatterbrained and easily distracted as it is. It's like I don't need one more thing
yeah.
messing with my memory, which is already bad enough as it is. And so
Well,
it's
all right.
I
Maybe
mean,
that's the difference
to
because
that end, that's
I
why I mean, aside from just, tea and coffee, I mean,
yeah.
I've gone down the nicotine
Oh dear.
pouch
Oh
supplementation route, but I only do it like every 2 or 3 days or something. If I need like if I'm like, okay, I'm really hitting an energy crash tonight and I need to squeeze out just 2 more hours
yeah,
of work, then I'll
yeah.
use it.
Okay.
But and
Well,
I use
there's
like the lowest effective dose possible. I'm not recommending that to anybody else, but it is what got us to the moon.
yes, true. I would recommend if you're okay with having my unsolicited advice, Reagan.
Mm,
Um, I always find it's good to take a little shot of caffeine before you work out, and that way
Oh yeah.
you can get way more reps out from doing that. And as a byproduct, you kind of increase your energy levels for when you don't need the caffeine, and that really helps. So
Yeah. I do mix up usually just some instant, that instant coffee from Trader Joe's into my
yeah,
protein shakes. Like I usually have about 6 raw eggs and some milk and
whoa,
protein, and then I'll put the instant coffee powder in there and just shake that up, and it'll keep me going for a long time.
oh yeah, that's a meal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
That's a meal of champions, my man.
Yeah.
So was
I mean,
there
to that, have you
was there
noticed
anything?
oh,
What
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, were there any other questions you had about Random Saga or anything else?
Yeah, I was actually just about to open it up to
Oh,
the chat to ask it to if they have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And I will also have a couple questions. When you're working on Random Saga, like do you have any favorite, like, I don't know, inspiration music or playlists, or I don't know, favorite artists or genres uh
well, in
to
regards to
plug
the
for that?
playlist, no, because the first rule of animation is concentration.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Very classic Richard Williams mode of view.
yeah, animated survival kit. Check
Yeah.
it out. It's very useful. Um, what was the other one?
Um, if you're okay, so when you're not animating and you're just,
Oh,
I don't know, you're in, I don't know, inspiration gathering mode and you are listening to music, what do you like to listen
um, hmm. That's a tough one because, as I said, I've kind of reached critical mass in regards to my consumption of media. Um, and in doing so, and you know, I'm not sure how old you are, Reagan. I think you're probably a little bit younger than me. Once
I'm
you
in
get,
I'm in my 30s.
yeah,
I'm
so you are younger than me. So once you get to my age, you kind of start to, you've kind of seen it all, you know, and so you
I'm
just,
already
uh, well,
yeah.
trust me, you're not there yet. You're not
Oh
there
man,
to
well,
the,
I'm already feeling it. So if it's going to intensify, gosh, I don't know what that's
yeah,
going to be
yeah,
like.
and I mean that's just part of, that's just part of life. A good friend of mine back home, he's a bit older than me, and he's probably one of the most amazing artists I've ever had the benefit of knowing. But he's the same. Like he used to just love art books, and he would just read everything. Like he was a huge One Piece fan. Um, just everything. Like he just had even a more eclectic like taste than I did, and it was all just gold, right?
Mhm.
And so like when I talked to him, I think a few years ago, he was like, "Yeah, I sold all my books, I sold all my movies." And I was like, "Why is that?" Like he had such an amazing collection. He's like, I just lost interest, man. I'm just drawing my stuff now. You know what I mean? It's like there comes a point where you got to stop cooking the soup and you got to start serving it.
Yeah,
Like
I've
you got to stop putting the ingredients in, otherwise the soup's just going to turn out bad. So
I've definitely hit that with my own work. Like for me, it takes a lot to get me to commit the time and money to go out and see a movie or to buy a new book or
yeah,
something, because it's not that I feel like, oh, I've seen it all. It's just kind of like, I know, it's like I've absorbed as much as I need to.
yeah,
And now I've just got this burning need to get it all out in a form that only I can tell.
yes. So
Uh,
it's like, you've grown up admiring all these artists your whole life, these amazing artists. But then it comes to a time where you've reached that same level that they were at when you were looking at their work. And so now it's your turn to start to be that artist and inspire the newer generation, so to say.
yeah. We got a question from Ari Fisher. What
Ooh.
tips can you recommend for doing solo animation and not getting stuck in the huge amount of work needed for animation?
Well, that's an interesting question because no matter how hard you try, you will still get stuck in having to do the huge amount of work needed for animation. That's just the nature of the medium.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, for me personally, it's about trying to think of the most effective ways of cutting corners, but not doing it in such a way where it's a detriment to the look of the work or the quality of the work, if that makes any sense. Like with Random Saga, like traditional animation would be like key poses and then you do like draw in-betweens for that. With Random Saga, I'm aiming at more for strong, good-looking drawings and layout and just doing it like pose to pose. And you can still get away with it. And then the rest is just like compositing and sliding things around and just doing little cheats. So trying to find like those effective little cheats and those effective little shortcuts to maximize your output as much as you can is probably the best way to go that I've found. Because I mean, the Japanese have been doing it for ages, so, and they've got it down to a fine art.
Yeah, I mean that was part of why I didn't continue pursuing, just
Uh-oh.
because I wanted to tell stories, but the scale of the stories I wanted to tell would have just been prohibitively
Yeah.
expensive and time consuming in animation. And like the only way I would even have a shot of it is if I were like directing a feature length production, which just the odds of that happening would have been minuscule.
I mean, that was true quite a few years ago, but I mean, the kind of technology that we have today is so powerful now. Like,
Mm,
it's way easier for one person to do a lot more. I feel
interesting.
like Blender is a great example of that, and it's free. The programs that I'm using for Random Saga is Toon Boom Harmony and Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, and they are really powerful. Like the example I always like to give is like back in the 70s and 80s when Hanna-Barbera was the thing, and they were making those very simple like Yogi Bear cartoons. It took if you look at the cartoons, it's like held drawings and they just animate the head or whatever, and that's why they have the collars, because it's easier to like blend it in if
Yeah.
you just got a collar. Like that's why Yogi has a collar and a tie but no pants and shirt,
Mm.
and handcuffs as well, because then it's
No.
easier to just animate the hands. But that took a team of people to do. But you could do one person with a copy of Blender or Toon Boom Storyboard Pro could do the exact same thing of similar quality today.
Yeah, my friend Matthew Gafford, also known as Frederick Fox, is kind of doing that with his own animated series. It's just called A Fox in Space Show. Some of the people in the chat would know him, and he's seeing he's doing exactly what you're describing, using this combination of Blender and I can't remember what he's using for the 2D side of the animation, but it's something like what you described, and it's like pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So another question from Ari: where would you recommend looking to learn animation from a beginner level? Do you recommend going to university at all?
I do not know. Just because, I mean, there's so much stuff on YouTube now. You can there's essentially like a 3-year course on YouTube. Like there's so much stuff on YouTube now that you can just find and absorb. Like I find new stuff on YouTube every day, and it's so easy. Like this is the beauty of we're in the future, Reagan. It's the future. It's arrived. We've got jetpacks are happening. We've got electric
Yeah,
automotive cars, but we also have the world's knowledge at our fingertips now. And YouTube is such an amazing resource, and there's so many other things, other resources outside of YouTube, and it's all free. It's all free. You don't need to go to university. It's amazing.
yeah, and even to add on to that, there are a few like paid animation or storyboarding courses out there that will teach you university level stuff at a tiny fraction of the cost. Like maybe, I don't know, $50 on Gumroad or something like that. And a lot of times these are this is information that was taught at maybe SVA or RISD or Cal Arts or
Yes.
Art Center or any of the other like astronomically expensive schools that will just enslave you with debt for your whole life.
Exactly.
A lot
And
of the
that's
there's alumni from those schools who are so desperate to get their loans paid off. I mean, I'm not laughing at their situation. I'm
no.
laughing at the sad irony of it.
Yeah.
That one way that they've been making money is by basically repackaging everything that they learned in those for forbiddingly expensive schools and teaching it to you on their, I don't know, like maybe like their Patreon or their Gumroad course or some other online lesson mentorship type thing. There's a lot out there. There's tons of them.
Yeah.
And they're very oftentimes they're very reasonably priced at various beginner to intermediate to industry levels. And so if you feel like you're hitting a ceiling with what you can learn for free on YouTube, that's certainly an option out there too. And and I think I would look at that before considering going to a art school
Yeah.
formally. I do think that the one formal instruction I do think that is good for just about any artist is a figure drawing course,
Oh
which a
yes.
lot of community colleges will have those.
Yeah.
And the cheaper you can get it, the better. It doesn't really you don't really need that much fine-tuned teacher instruction on it. I mean, it helps if you do. I
Mhm.
had a pretty legendary cranky Russian figure drawing professor that taught me how to draw the whole skeleton and all this stuff from memory. But I'm sorry, taught me how to draw the whole bone person from memory. Um, uh, I promise to do better.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't actually care. That's just the joke.
Yeah, but even before that, like I just took figure drawing classes at a local community college in San Diego County. I think it was like maybe I don't know, $100 or so per semester. And the wealth of skill that I got from that alone was unbelievable. So I
Yeah.
would say before, yeah, just learn online. There are several really good art books like the here I've got it right here, the How to Think When You Draw series by
Yeah.
Lorenzo Etherington.
Lorenzo. Yeah, I remember Lorenzo. He's been around for a while.
Yeah, and this is all you can buy the books, which are unfortunately expensive as hell due to shipping costs right now.
Mm.
But the good news is that he puts all the lessons up for free online. Um, so there's that, and yeah, and if you feel like you hit a ceiling with your YouTube learning options, then there are lots of good and very reasonably priced Gumroad classes and stuff out there.
Yes. And also, I would add one more thing. Being a good artist means being able to accurately and objectively observe what it is that you're drawing. Not only just being able to look at it and just see a thing there, but to look at it and understand why that thing is there, how it got there, and what the mechanics are that make it. I don't know. I guess that's kind of almost we're getting into philosophy, but why that thing became what it was. You know what I mean? Like a table is obviously a table, but somebody had to make the table and the wood had to come from somewhere and they had to fashion the wood with these particular tools. And that's why it's the shape it is. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And also this mentality among artists, which, I definitely had this for many years myself too. This idea that, if you just get into the prestigious art school, you're set. It's not really not true. I mean, one, you're going to have to deal with a lot of BS classes that are a waste of your time just
mm,
so you can maybe get those one or two really good classes that are very like that's the meat that you want to get to. And then when you graduate, if you graduate with a lot of debt, which most people will, um, that is going to severely kneecap your creative decision making. Instead of doing what you feel uh, strong conviction about, what you believe to be valuable or worthwhile or meaningful to create, you're going to instead do work that will just that will in the short term get you as much money as possible, not even to save or invest it, but just to pay off the debt demon writing on your back. So it is kind of a form of mental slavery in a
Yeah.
way. And I've known so many great artists who, they went to school and stuff, and like I remember like what their independent work was when they were high schoolers, or when they were, before they went to school, and they were just, they were just posting their stuff on DeviantArt or Tumblr or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And it's like, and there was a certain like creative fire to it. It was really unique. And
Mm.
then after they graduate and they go into the studio system, you don't see them produce any more powerful original work anymore, because one, they don't have any time or energy at the end of their workday, because working for a studio is, it can be very demanding.
Yes.
um and two, they're probably just, it's, they're, again, they have that debt and that mindset that comes with it that dominates all their decision making. So yeah, I would strongly caution anybody considering going to art school, a formal, like traditional, like legacy art school. I would say the one exception might be if you somehow manage to secure a full ride scholarship. And even then, I would strongly recommend that you have your general ed courses completely taken care of, so that you don't have to do that whole foundational first year that everybody hates. It's
Mm.
just soul crushing, just work to just get the map readers who shouldn't even be in the program up to speed. Because that's another thing. The quality of university education in the US is so bad. And
Oh yeah.
like I, I know I'm kind of going off now. I'm having an
No,
almost on the border of
do it.
having an epic gamer moment about this.
Do
But
it.
so
Gamer moment. Let's go.
so I graduated high school in the 2000s. And then I tried for years to get into numerous art schools. I got accepted into RISD Art Center, Alberta College of Art and Design, Cal Arts, and all this stuff. I just couldn't afford any of it because my dad was a poor farmer who barely broke even most years.
Mm.
And so I was very emotionally devastated for years, seeing all my friends go on to school while I was like stuck on the farm, and all this. And then, so there was a big gap where, I was working, struggling, working freelance while also balancing, working at Home Depot as a shopping a lot, as a parking lot attendant and stuff. Um, and then I was still working in comics, and I was on the upswing there. And then I ran off to join the Marines for a while. And after I got out of the Marines, my skills were such a mess for a myriad of reasons. I was dealing with a lot of depression and had some mental issues to deal with. And I needed a compartmentalized place to rebuild my atrophied art skills, because nobody in their right mind would hire me in the state that I was in. Uh,
Mm.
and so I thought, like, okay, I might need to go to art school just to have like a designated space to go to focus on art and get better at it and try to reconnect with the industry and stuff, because it was kind of like Robin Williams in Jumanji, covered in dreadlocks and a long beard, and asking
Yeah.
like, what year is it? Um that's kind of the state I was in. And while I came out of that fine, because it's like I had the GI Bill to cover my costs, and I was able to pocket a lot of the money from the GI Bill due to how cheap I was living.
Whoa.
So I was an extraordinarily rare case where I think I did benefit actually from art school, although arguably I probably could have accomplished it in other ways, but I think that was the best option for where I was at. But I was astonished at the level of idiocy that was being allowed into bachelor's degrees programs. So between the time like several years had passed from the time that I graduated high school to the time that I went to college, and there were people like there were a lot of people, like I don't even just mean like a minority of students, I mean like a significant majority of students did not know basic stuff that even I, as a student who got straight D's and F's because of the amount of fistfights I was getting in, like in my freshman year, like stuff that I knew in my freshman or sophomore year of high school, these people did not know, and they were just being given a free ride or a very subsidized ride into higher learning, and the quality of the curriculum was so dumbed down, with the exception of just a few classes. Like I unless you are able to get a free ride to a very extremely high quality, probably private art school, I would generally not recommend it. So that's my bit there.
That's quite the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take it from honestly, Reagan. He's been there.
Yeah. Honestly, like you can learn way more from our live streams. Like you can watch FresherLuke's YouTube channel, which I've linked to in the show description. And then there's my Twitch channel where I will teach you all of life's secrets.
Well, I won't. You won't learn anything from me except how to more effectively swear in Australian. But whatever.
All right, we got time for a couple more questions here. Let's see. Ari asks, are there any specific YouTube channels you would recommend?
Oh yeah, there's one that I look at called I think it's called Z Bird Brain, Z-E Bird Brain, all one word.
Z-E Bird Brain. I don't think I've heard of that.
Yeah, Z Bird Brain, and she's really good because she's an expert at Toon Boom Harmony, and she's got so many tutorials on there. Another one is Onion Skin. He's an Australian guy, also in the same vein of Toon Boom Harmony. They got a lot. I
found Zebra Brain.
Yeah, she's
the
a
other one was Onion Skin. You said?
Yeah, Onion Skin. They're like, well, you could probably find it in Zebra Brains. They're like, they know each other. Those are the two that I go to a lot. There's a bunch of other ones, but the beauty about YouTube is that you can it has this thing called the search bar. So if you're looking for something specific, you could type it in the search bar, and it'll give you up a bunch of stuff, and you can go searching for stuff as well. So if you need to know stuff about, say, figure drawing, like what Reagan's been talking about, which I do recommend, like doing life drawing, like proper life drawing with a proper full nude model. Like I cannot tell you how much I learned and how much I improved, like almost overnight, by doing, just a little bit of life drawing, because it forces you to sort of like get into that observational mindset. You have to get over your childlike, like, tee-hee, going, oh, look, it's a naked person. Or seeing a naked guy and going, oh no, if I look at this guy, I'm going to be gay. You got to get over that and just start to really objectively look at the human body. And once you get to that stage, then in a sense, you're kind of training your brain to apply that same kind of mindset to everything else in the world around you. But yeah, there's so much on YouTube. I can't believe it. There's a dearth of content that's just so informative.
Yeah, Lorenzo Perego says, I started life drawing last week. I'm so happy for it, and also recommended Z Burbrain. So that's another recommendation for that channel.
Yeah, usually I like when I'm like doing something in Harmony, I'm like, how do I do this thing? I just go to a channel and it's right there. I'm like, oh, and it's like short and sweet and very informative, and you just put it at 1.25 speed and makes it sound funnier, and away you go.
Nice. All right, I'm going to plug your Indiegogo campaign for Random Saga again here in the chat. Everybody go check it out.
Should we pull it up on the...
Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let me get my screen share thingy up here. I've been having trouble with getting the audio to route through StreamYard, so I don't know if I'll be able to play the animated short, unfortunately.
Oh, that's okay. I've got something here I can share. That
okay. Yeah, I can actually just give this screen over to you if that would be easier.
Oh, well, I'm just gonna show you guys a little sample that I like to play. Maybe you've seen this before, Reagan, but it's got a very special guest voice in it. Maybe you can pick it out.
All right, I'll add this to the
A
screen
mysterious old man who has no further bearing on this expedition. Did you say something? Oh, there you are.
Dope.
Were you trying to sneak away?
Yeah, I was trying to sneak away. I don't like being social too often.
Oh, you almost got us there.
Yeah, I'm not as good at that as I used to be.
Okay, bye.
Was that Eric Weathers?
No.
Wait, who was that then?
It's Von Klaus.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
I
was
it's like, how could you get so close and yet be so far, Reagan?
Oh man, embarrassing. Gosh. All right, let me I'll bring up the Indiegogo page here. One
Yeah.
second. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I need to get like Streamlabs properly figured out to
But you're using StreamYards, not Streamlabs.
or StreamYards, yeah,
Yeah.
StreamYard, that's right. Streamlabs, that's what I want to get set up
so
on.
Here it is.
All right, so yeah, this is the campaign here, everybody.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of fun little tiers and perks and character design sheets explaining all the characters and what their various traits are. Yeah, I've got stickers available, a t-shirt, behind the scenes art book, a digital download, and also a 20-page full color comic book.
Oh, nice.
Because I know if you go back up, there's like that's the first page there of it.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the pawn shop that they live above and that Wizard Lizard works at. That's why he's sleeping at the desk there, because he's a very responsible leader. But yeah. So this is kind of
campaigns. All right, so you've got 12 days left and need 6,000 more bucks. So we got to get you funded.
We do? I guess we do. I feel like that's a plan that I can sign off on.
Yeah. So everybody, you all need to send your money to FresherLuke's Indiegogo campaign right now. I'm going to post the link in the chat
again. You just did it, Reagan. But yeah, take a look at it, check it out, give it a back if you want. I've got different price tiers for different budgets as well. Every little bit helps, and you'll at the end of it will help fund some original content that everyone can enjoy.
Definitely. All right, everybody, go support Random Saga. Follow FresherLuke on all the links that I've got in the video description here. And Luke, if there's any other links I missed out, just toss them to me and I'll edit them into the video description notes.
Did you put the Twitch link? Because apparently we're both Twitch brothers as well, sir. Now.
Oh, I did not. Okay. I will definitely. No, I totally forgot about that. I'll make sure to put that in there too. So yeah, folks, check the show description in a few minutes after we wrap up here, and I'll have his Twitch link posted there too.
I have been off Twitch recently just because I've had a lot of work to do, but I am trying to get back on there again. I'm probably going to stream this Wednesday.
Oh, excellent. Well, hopefully you'll overlap our schedules a little bit, and I'll be able to send you a Twitch raid sometime soon.
Oh yes, I have yet to experience a raid of any kind.
Oh, we'll make sure to change that for you.
Oh, what's it
all right,
like?
Luke? This has been a most excellent discussion. Any parting words before we wrap up?
Stay fresh.
Yeah. Don't get moldy and spoiled, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, Luke, this has been a great talk. I will see you around. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Share this video around with your friends, and I will see you all later.
Have fun.